His hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, His hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Like the holy plan, round about your table, children are the heritage of God. I am seeking first the kingdom of God, cause I am a praying child. I gotta pray just to I am a praying child. I am a praying child. Whether I am black or white, I am a praying child. Yes, I have to pray. I am a praying child. Yes, I have to pray. I am a praying child. Jesus got my I am a praying child. I am blessed of the Lord, His hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. I am blessed of the Lord, His hand is mighty upon me, and no weapon fashioned against me, they shall never prosper. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Praying child, godly children we are, never defeated, always winning, we're living in fear of God. Like the holy plan, round about your table, children are the heritage of God. I am seeking first the kingdom of God, cause I am a praying child. I gotta pray just to I am a praying child.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. God bless you, and as always, welcome to daily prayer for our children. Good to have you wherever it is that you are joining us from. As always, I like to welcome you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. My sister, I see you in the house. God bless you. The only one and only one Archbishop that I have as a sister. God bless you, woman of God. Good to have you. Everybody, hope you're well. If I can see you or I can't see you, and everybody that will be watching later, God bless you. Good to see you. Hope you've had a wonderful weekend. It is the beginning of another week, and I'm not alone. I'm so happy I'm not alone. It's been a while. We've seen each other. We did a little catch up, and it looks like we were together like 2 months ago. So we did a little roundup of catching up. So you guys are going to be seeing her as well, and by next month as well, I think we're seeing her maybe twice or so as well next month by the grace of God. She's been very busy, a very busy summer. She went some places. I wish she took me. She didn't, but it's okay. I forgive her. So that's also fine as well. But I give God all the praise, all that has happened, that has kept watch over each and every one of us, and today we are able to gather together and to fellowship as well, and for that I am always grateful. So this evening I am here in this broadcast with you already see her. I've already displayed it on the screen, so you know her. It's Sister Folakemi. She's with us again this evening. So we're in for some exciting moment again. This is a topic that is close to my heart, so I'm going to really take a lot away from this, because at least I know members of my family that I've always thought they had it, but then with conversation we'll get there anyway. We'll find out all those things. So that's why I like when she comes. It's very informative. Things we thought we knew, we didn't know, we thought could have been, we're not sure, and it was there but it was ignored, and stigma and all those kind of things we're going to find out. So it's something that is close to my heart, like I said. So if you are a parent, mom, dad, auntie, uncle, cousin, so it could be your niece, it could be your nephew, it could be your grandchildren that has dyslexia, we're going to get some insight, useful, resourceful insight into how maybe not only just to know it, understand it, maybe also to navigate that uncharted territory for many of us. So it's very interesting that as soon as she made that suggestion, I said, fantastic, yes, let's go with this. Because I know, sorry to say if I sound so condescending, but there's so many things that I think within our community we're not aware of, and we don't take the time to go and learn or educate ourselves about, but yet is very prevalent in our community. And why I've always said the Bible says get wisdom, get knowledge, get understanding. So in every way, shape or form, that word that they borrowed me, we should be holistic. I hope I used it correctly. When she comes, I will ask her. So without further ado, everybody, I want to bring my sister on board. She's been waiting patiently, and I've advocated that she will go to bed sleeping with a smile on her face tonight. So let me bring Sister Folakemi on board, everybody. Here she is. So let me reduce this because you've all seen that one. There she is. Hallelujah. Good evening,
Good
Sister
evening, sis. Good evening,
Folakemi.
house. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for always creating time. Like I said, I know you were having a very busy summer. And I'm only even talking about the one I've seen. About the ones I didn't see. So I know you've,
Yeah.
like everybody, and that's why I don't take your time for granted, and the knowledge and the skill and the expertise that you bring to the board as well. I'm saying thank you on behalf of all the PCC family. Thank you. We really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
So you're welcome back.
Thank you.
Tell me what you want us to do. As always, please introduce yourself just in case there are people that have never met you before, where they can connect with you and all that kind of thing. Don't leave anything out. Too.
Okay. I've been warned. Right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Folakemi Adedeji Ikuyinminu, but Folakemi Ikuyinminu. Adedeji is my father's name. I am a mother. I'm a child of God. I'm a trained teacher, psychologist. I wear many hats. I'm a trained coach. I'm a special needs. I'm passionate about special needs. I used to be a special needs coordinator years ago. So what I currently do, I work with my local council. I I manage what we call the Send Support Line, where we help schools and parents with special needs. On In my private time, I coach mothers and I coach teenagers. You can find me on Facebook, Folakemi Adedeji Ikuyinminu, and on my personal profile, you can find a link to the group that I lead. I'm on Instagram as Folakemi Adedeji Ikuyinminu. I'm also on Instagram as Futures Coaching and Consult, which is the name of my coaching outfit. So yeah, That's me in a nutshell.
And that was so quick. I hope everybody. Well, the beauty is it's a video, so you can
Mm,
always go back, and
yeah.
catch. And obviously, in the description box below, I always endeavor to put the details of all our guests so that anybody can connect with you if they so desire. Okay, we're talking about dyslexia this evening,
Yes.
Sister Folakemi.
Mm.
Hopefully, we will be able to cover it because we've got a lot of planned out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When I was planning it, I was like, okay, we'll see how
we
far we
will
go.
amend. We will amend along the way if we need to.
Yeah.
So, just generally, before we dive in,
Mm.
within our community, and I think you understand my phrase, our community,
Yeah.
how is this even an appropriate question? I'll find out after I've said it. Is dyslexia something that we consider a taboo, or is it just ignorance?
I think within our community, any difference
Is a taboo?
is considered a taboo. It's changing. It's getting better, but I mean, if even if I look back to when we were growing up, you were supposed to be a certain way,
Mm,
like like there was a gold standard, and if you weren't like that, then then you were either lazy or
there was
inconsequential,
some
or
sort of label.
you had a label. So yeah, but I think things are get there's more exposure now. People are beginning to realize that that there are differences in the way we've been made,
Mm.
basically.
And it's good to embrace
Yeah,
that
yeah,
difference,
yeah.
and it doesn't
It's
necessarily
not,
have to
yeah.
be, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a taboo either.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
If we are different.
yeah,
So, well, I'm going to let you jump in, but I just think, that's one of those things that I just feel again.
yeah.
I think I'm within the ethnic minority, like you said, anything that is different. And I don't know where that stemmed from, but it seems like we've been struggling for years to shake it off that
Mm,
it's actually okay and it's
mm,
manageable, it's
yeah,
understandable. We
yeah.
can educate ourselves like you're going to do this evening for
Mm,
us. So let me hand over to you so we can start
okay.
running.
Right, so we're talking about dyslexia, and for me, when I think about dyslexia, what comes to my mind is those children, those of our mates in school
Mm,
that the teachers will say, "Oh, you already forgot what we taught you," or
mm,
they will sing, those kind of horrible songs. I mean, I grew up in the west of Nigeria, and you'll be like, "Oh, you're always getting zero." That you can only eat the eyes of a fish, if I can give it a literal translation. So
mm.
basically, there were children that were struggling, and because they didn't match up to the expectations of the teachers or the adults, they were labeled as I don't even know what the word is. That they were just labeled as lazy, as dunce, as stupid, and things like that. But now we know that those are learning. First they were called difficulties. Now they're called differences, because we will
Oh,
see that
really?
actually they some people call it difficulties. I would rather call it a difference, because
Okay.
when you look at people who are dyslexic, they have their strengths.
Yes.
So why would I call the fact that they can't do certain things a
That I
difficulty?
can do.
It's a difference. It's a difference, because there
Mm.
are things they can do that we would not be able to
Be
do
able
as
to do
well.
as well.
I think the emphasis that we've had on academic
Excellence.
excellence
Yes.
as an indicator of what of an individual's capability,
Mm-hmm.
or worth as a person. I think that's a misled expectation. We grew up thinking you had to go to school and pass. If you didn't
Mm-hmm.
pass, you were a total failure.
Mm.
But that's not actually true. It's not true all of the time. But let's jump into dyslexia. Um, it's a specific learning difficulty, so it means that it affects a specific area of learning. And when we start the slides, I've put the definition by the British Dyslexia Association because professionally that's the gold standard. Okay, specific learning disability or difficulty that is neurobiological in origin. So it's got to do with the brain and it's got to do with biology. So it's not laziness, it's not willfulness, it's not them being dodging what they need to do. It's the fact that their brains have been wired in a certain way. Now, there's a group of what we call neurodevelopmental disorders that we're going to talk about in the course of this learning differences that we're looking at. Dyslexia is the first one. Okay, so how do we identify dyslexia? Sis, can you please put I'll just talk through okay. These are the specific learning differences or difficulties. So when you hear people say SPLD, it's an acronym for specific learning difficulty or difference. So you have dyslexia, you have dyspraxia, we have attention deficit disorder, ADD, we have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, we have dyscalculia, we have dysgraphia. Now, when all of these are specific learning differences or difficulties, they refer to a difficulty people have in a specific area of learning. So with dyslexia, it is with words recognition and spelling and decoding, and I'll explain what that means. So this that's the group of specific learning differences we're looking at dyslexia today. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Now, if you can see the print on the screen. So trying to read this passage, we will experience the kind of difficulty that some dyslexic readers face when when you give them a book that is plainly you can see the type font face, you can see the font, everything is fine. But if you pick up the book and the print was jumping up around like that, how quickly would you be able to read it?
Are you asking me?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh
Would you be
no,
able to read
because
that?
immediately I even saw it, I'm
Yeah,
like, where do I begin?
exactly. So when the person or the child picks up the text and they hesitate, and our first reaction is, "Oh, come on, get on with it." But they're looking at it and they're thinking, what they can't see it properly. So that's what some of them face when they're trying to decipher a normal print that we think is normal. So that's why I feel that it's a learning difference. It's not a learning difficulty because what's normal to me is not normal to them. It's not easy to read this, and that's what a lot of dyslexic readers would face when they pick up a book to read. So when they run away from reading or when they cry at reading time, this is one of the reasons why. Next
Ah,
slide, please.
we all need a lot of forgiveness.
Now look at the title of this page. What is dyslexia? That's another example of how a dyslexic reader might look at a normal print. The letters seem like jumbled up, and I can read it because, well, I guess my brain is wired differently.
Mm,
But if it was a normal print, that's what a dyslexic reader might see. Okay, and can you see the picture of the child?
yes.
He is busy trying to understand, and everybody else, their hand is up. They can see it straight away. But he's sitting there thinking, what does it say? How can I read it? I can't even remember the name of that letter. Okay, so and I'm sure as I speak, you certain people will come to mind, whether when you were growing up or even your own child or even your own sibling or somebody that you know. For them, look at what all the letters in the air around his head. He's trying to decipher, is it a J, is it a Y? Oh, what's the name of that letter again? And I know that instinctively our reaction to that sort of child is, oh, you're lazy. You mean you have forgotten what a B looks like? You don't know what a C looks like. They cannot remember.
You know, as you just spoke, something came to mind. We used to say, "You're slow."
Mm,
That's
slow,
that's one word.
dunce,
You're
stupid,
so slow.
slow, slow. You're going to send me to sleep. Can you not do it quickly? Their brain is trying to work out what they're seeing. Okay, let's look at the definition. I don't know how far we'll go today. Um, so it's a specific learning disability that is neurobiological. I explained earlier, it's got to do with the wiring of the brain. So difficulties with accurate or fluent word recognition. So you would find that if a person is dyslexic, they would misread words. We'll look at the characteristics later on. They will read word backwards. They would read slowly and painfully because they're processing every word as an individual block. Whereas you and I will scan a page and we will read quickly. They can't do it. So difficulties with accurate word recognition, poor spelling. They would learn the spelling of maths today. They will write it correctly tomorrow. They would have forgotten it. So decoding, when they're trying to read a book, when they're trying to read text, it's just slow. They look at the text and instead of reading dog straight away, they're going to og. It doesn't matter that they are already in secondary school. It's because they just can't remember. So these difficulties result from what we call a deficit in phonological component of language. And let me explain what the phonological component of language is. For the phonological component of language is being able to manipulate language. Now, for instance, amongst my colleagues in special needs, we always joke that, oh yeah, we all basically have a little of everything. Like for me, for instance, I phonological component is what I'm trying to explain. One of the things that you do in phonological manipulation is rhyming. I always tell people, I can't rhyme to save my life. Like
Mm.
mat, bat, rat, cat. When he moves beyond three-letter words, I have to think about it. Now, the dyslexic person cannot even do a lot of them cannot even do the patterns that I can do. So manipulating the language, the spoken language, being able to tell me when I say to them, um, bend, being able to tell me that the first letter is B and the last letter is G. I can think about it and say it. They can't manipulate it in their brain to say it. So these are some of the things we do when we assess them. So being able to manipulate language and make sense of it. Now, this is unexpected because when you see when you see them, they have strengths in other areas. So their difficulty with language is often unexpected. They are those children that can talk for the whole world.
Mm.
When they're talking about a subject, they are articulate. They can, they can a lot of them can put their views forward. When it comes to reading and writing, woo, that child that you saw or that brilliant person you saw disappears because their brain will not be able to retrieve it for writing. So their ability in the classroom doesn't, what they do in written work, it doesn't match their verbal skills.
Mm.
Okay. Now, other consequences, other areas where dyslexia is evident is reading comprehension. Some dyslexic people will be able to read really well, but they'll have no clue what it means. So we call it barking at print. They will read it really well, but they will not. But they have spent so much time trying to decode the words, trying to say the words correctly, they can't remember what they've read. So when you ask the child a question about what they've read, and they say, I don't know, I can't remember, please don't get annoyed. It's true. They can't remember because they have spent so much time reading the words correctly, the comprehension is not there. So They have problems with vocabulary. They have problems with applying their background knowledge into what they've read. So, if, for instance, you say to them, in your experience, what do you remember if you've ever gone shopping, like the boy in the story? They can tell you, I don't know, no, because they just can't put it all together. So, this is the definition from the International Dyslexia Association. We would go on and look at other other the indicators of dyslexia. You can see that I'm trying to remember my words as well.
Mm,
So I mean, psh, some of us have managed to get through school by grit,
mm,
or it doesn't mean that we don't have. We have adults who are now getting diagnosed. They're getting diagnosed as adults. They want to further their education, and the
mm.
university now discovers that what's going on here, and they get a diagnosis. So we some of us have coped, but when we see people that are struggling, we should remember that it's not deliberate. So let's move on.
It's interesting you say
Yeah.
that because just the example you cited now, Sister Folakemi,
Mm,
I remember a young lady and she was actually in the top set, one of the top sets. And as far as we were concerned, she was, sorry, just
mm,
like everybody else, if I can
mm.
use that word.
Yeah.
There was nothing different about her. And then when she got to university, also not just any university, to be honest with you, um, one day conversation was going and she said, yeah, so because of my dyslexia, I've I've got all these. Obviously, we were talking about student loan grants, and
Mm,
because she was schooling in university. Her university was right in the middle of London, so you know
mm,
the cost of having a university in London. So
mm,
she was saying, "Oh no, my accommodation." So she was going. So we were like, "You've got dyslexia? Since
mm,
when?" Do you understand what I'm saying?
mm,
So
mm.
we had that moment that since when did you have dyslexia? I mean, like you said, did she just cope through?
Yeah. Cope, cope, grit. Like I said, by grit, by hard work. But you will find that you know, as she was growing up, she was probably one of those people who were always tired. Who slept for a long time. That's fatigue from trying so hard.
Again, may God forgive us. Over to you.
So yeah, so breaking it down, this and Lex, difficulty with language. Lex means to speak. So it's a language-based learning disability. So they have problem processing language. But if you give them visual information, they're fine. Okay, some of them are good with drawing pictures, they will play video games, they do other things that they can see with their eyes, but they struggle with connecting the letters to the sounds. So some of them can learn their ABCs, and then when you teach them the sounds, they just cannot marry the two together. It doesn't make any sense. Like today we teach the schools, we teach phonics. We grew up, I don't even know how we learned English. We just learned how to read. But now
ABD.
research research has shown that connecting the letters to the sounds helps with reading and helps to improve. But with dyslexic children, it requires specific teaching and reteaching and repeating because they can't connect the letters to the sound. It's not that they're lazy. It just doesn't, their brain doesn't just work with it. So let's move on.
Wow.
Okay. Um, that's the early years. So I'll just talk a bit more about other difficulties that you might have with dyslexia. I've talked about phonological awareness, being able to manipulate language. There's also verbal memory. Like they seem to be very forgetful, and verbal processes bit. We've talked about that, where they just go and you're expecting an answer and they're still trying to think about how to give you the answer. So, and like you, and interestingly, you've just mentioned it. I put it in my note. It occurs across a wide range of abilities, intellectual abilities. So the top flyer can be dyslexic.
Wow.
It's yeah, it just means that they've managed to cope better, and they haven't got as many processing difficulties. Which if you have dyslexia and you have a lot of verbal memory and verbal processing difficulties, that will be worse. The symptoms will be worse than the person who doesn't have those slow processing skills and is just struggling with connecting the sounds and manipulating the sounds in words. Okay, so it's not a distinct category. It's thought of as a continuum, like a wide. It's a wide category of difficulties. So difficulties that co-occur with dyslexia could include motor coordination. The person might be, clumsy. Um, they might have difficulties with mental calculation. So you would say to somebody, 8 plus 5 is whatever, and they'll give you the answer. Some dyslexic people have dyscalculia as well, so they have to they'll have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then count the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before they can put it together. And no matter how many times they practice, sometimes it's still difficult. So they have all of those problems. They have sometimes problems with um, concentration, problems with personal organization. Um, there's so many other things that come together that affect the severity of the dyslexia. So some people are severely dyslexic. They have all of the co-occurring issues. Some people are at the top of the continuum and they have higher skills. Okay, but I think when they are being assessed, the assessors can be able to, unpick where the major difficulties are so they can be supported. In the early years, that's, from 0 to 5 years, depending on where you live in the world, if a child has a difficulty in learning nursery rhymes, like they can't remember, I mean, that's where we start from when we teach in the early years rhymes. That's why they teach rhymes, so that the children can learn how to manipulate words and manipulate the sounds in words. Now, difficulty in learning the alphabet or learning to sing or recite the alphabet. So today they will do EFGHIJKXYZ. Tomorrow they'll remember the ones in the middle and they'll forget the XYZ. So they're just showing us, that there might be a problem. Of course, we know that developmentally young children don't remember everything, but you would notice that this particular child just seems behind the others when it comes to learning the alphabet. Okay, they find it hard to carry out instructions that have, two or more instructions at the same time. Go upstairs, bring my shoes, and bring my bag. Ah, that's like a big exam. The child will probably just remember the bag, or will probably remember you told me to go upstairs. I want you to start imagining when we were growing up, children like that. They'll come back downstairs and they will be shamed. Like, I told you to, and they'll be asking them, what did I ask you to do? You asked me to go upstairs. What else did I ask you to do? And they'll say, this child plays too much. This child doesn't listen. They can't retain the information. Okay, they forget the names of their friends, of their teachers. If you have a child that's always saying, oh, it's her, it's him, and they can't tell you the person's name, what's going on there. They forget their colors. They know it today, they don't know it tomorrow. The confused directions. They can't tell you if this is up or down. They tell you the opposite of whatever it is they're supposed to be telling you. They have difficulty in paying attention. sitting still, listening to stories, even in the early years, those sort of things might be indicating that there are processing difficulties. So they model up words. Uh, Cucumber can become cubumba, and butterfly can become flutterby. We know that, in the early years, they're still learning their language. But when these things are persistent, when they're not getting better, pay attention to them. When they sing, when, not early years, they sing and clap. If they can't keep to rhythm, what's going on? What's going on? What else can I talk about? I've talked about direction, sequencing. In the early years, we do what we call sequencing. So you give them colored beads, for instance, and say, make me a pattern: two blue, two red, one white, two blue, two red. If it goes beyond one alternate colors, a child that has, the beginnings of dyslexia would not be able to do that. So those are things we take for granted, like, oh, make me a pattern, make me a repeating pattern. They won't be able to, even though they're looking at it. Okay, if there's a family history of reading difficulties, watch for the child. Okay, and then for sometimes they substitute words for one another. So a cup, okay, cup and mug. Well, maybe those are close. Lamp post and lampshade, for instance. They just don't know the difference. And usually there are children that, appear not to be listening or paying attention. So the parents will say, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you, because they kind of like, they're glazed over. And sometimes they have days when they're really good on the ball. And you think, oh, yes, they've got it. And then the next day you think, what's wrong with this child? So good days and bad days, all are indications of, in the early years, that there might be a problem with dyslexia. Let's move on. Next page, please. Primary years. Hello, sis. Oh, right. I don't know what's going on. Hi, everyone. think I think Stefan has been thrown out. So we're looking at dyslexia. Can you let me know in the chat if you can still hear and see me? I think we've had a technical glitch there. Anybody see me in the chat? Right, let me just find my phone and see what's going on. Good evening, good evening. Oh, you can hear and see me. Okay, well, we'll wait for Stefan to jump back on. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. So we've looked at dyslexia, signs of dyslexia in the early years. So in the very young children, what could we be looking at if we think that there might be a problem? So we've talked about, the children modeling up words. I mean, we expect that, that there'll be childish, childish language at that stage. But when it's distinct from their peers, that there might be a problem. Okay. I don't know if I should go on or not. Just give me a minute to let me see. Okay. Right. So Staffunke's internet is gone. She's trying to reboot. So I don't know if anybody's got anybody who can remember certain people or certain individuals in, especially when we were growing up. I think things are much better now. When we were growing up, it was such a stigma to be, to not be like your peers, and that was difficult. I distinctly remember people who were shamed at school because they did not fit in, and they couldn't do what their peers were doing. So in the early years, we've talked about all those differences that we can see, that can make us start thinking about what might be going on with the child. Like I said, Staffunka is trying to reboot. Their internet has had an issue. So with dyslexia, the speed of processing always makes them stand out. It always makes people wonder, oh, what's going on? Like we said earlier, you know, people would say, oh, why are you so slow? Why are you not doing, what you should do? But it is what it is. In the primary years, so the child can have slow spoken language or written language. Now, another thing that I didn't mention with the early years, it's the speech and language. The language is usually behind that of their peers. Right. She says they're back. I'm just waiting for them to come on. Okay. I'm waiting to see her, and we'll go on with my slides. Right, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Yay. Welcome back.
Shame, Bummy.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Fantastic. I didn't know we were live, to be honest. We're just trying all sorts of things.
Oh, bless you.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
back. Excellent. Oh,
yeah.
brilliant. Please, I'll just get it back up and we can just pick it up where we were.
Okay. Yeah. We're moving on.
Sometimes
Yeah.
when things like this happen, I think it's a good sign. Then the people that don't have internet as good as us can say, hey, you too, you have the same problem as us, you see.
Yeah,
So
it's the same world.
exactly, because
It's
everybody
the
tend to
same
think
world.
because you are in the
Mm,
Western Hemisphere, we haven't got this far,
things.
have we? We're
No,
in
this was
number
supposed to be the
7.
next week. We were okay. I had, well, I went on with
Oh, you
the.
did. So should I
I
go
went
on
on
to?
with them. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Let's
Thank you.
move on to this
Over
one.
to you.
Okay. Right. So here we're looking at the primary years. I don't know why I have the other window open. 1 minute. Okay, never mind. Okay, so in the primary years, you will find that their handwriting is messy, and sometimes it is illegible. And these children, my heart breaks for them because we are so hard on them. I just like, why are you so untidy? This work is you will either rip off the page or rub it out and make them do it again. And to be, I'll be honest with you, that untidy writing is brain work for them.
Wow.
It is, they have concentrated so much. They
Hard.
will write, they will cross it out, they will write, they will scribble it, and you'll be saying, I told you not to scribble. But
Wow.
the effort it takes them to produce that writing is enough for them. You will find that these children are usually tired. They are yawning. And everybody say, why are you always tired? Sometimes they fall asleep in school
Mm.
because their brain has, they're taxing that brain to try and do it.
Do.
So They have persistent letter and number reversals. So 7 will be written the wrong way around. 5, 2. When I see some of, in fact, we have something we call mirror writing. When I see some of the things they do, they will write, they will write the letters, and it'll be perfect mirror image. So can you imagine what's going on in that brain? How is that brain working? So letter reversals, number reversals, B, D, P, Q, those letters are, always suspect. They will get, you will practice, 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 and sometimes they will still get it wrong. Difficulty with cursive writing, that's joint writing. Slow reading, choppy. The man went to the, it doesn't matter if that child is in year 6. Slow, very slow reading, inaccurate reading, misreading words, reading words backwards. And then, sometimes they can't even remember the word for what they say, what they want to say. They can't find the right word. So we joke in teaching circles when we say, oh, the thingy, the thingy, the thingy. That's because, they can't remember the word. So they'll say that thing. They say, you know what I mean, because they can't find the right word. And sometimes they will just use a funny word to, and you think, how does that relate to what you're talking about? They can't remember what the word is. They can't remember what the name is. Okay. So, and in England now, we do the phonics assessment in year 2. And we teach them what we call alien words. Basically, the purpose of that is for them to be able to apply the sounds to words that are not normal words. So just a jumble of letters. But if you've learned your sounds, you'll be able to read them. Now, dyslexic learners struggle with that because they're not able to, excuse me, apply the sounds to reading non-words. Okay. Of course, like I said earlier, they can't follow a series of instructions. So when it comes to sight words, the high frequency words, they substitute them for one another. So when they're reading, they look at he and they read the, because the letters are similar. So they add on a letter. Sometimes they can take out a letter from the words they're reading. Sometimes they know the word, but they can't recall what it is. So when they're explaining to you, they can say, that. I mean, okay, for instance, I don't know if this happens, but if they're trying to describe an orange, they say, oh, that round fruit, and they'll just keep going, that round fruit, and it can't tell you that it is orange because their brain does not remember it. And so many other things. So poor concentration, forgetting words, confused letters. I've talked about that. So if words have similar letters like tired and tried, bread and bird, bed, they can't, they can't figure out which is which. Of course, we've talked about badly written work, poor pencil grip. Now, pencil grip is something I'm really passionate about, that, sometimes it slips. If a child does not hold their pen correctly, they will struggle with writing. Their wrists will hurt. So they have poor pencil grip. Um, their spelling is usually phonetic. They will write it as they say it. Whereas, of course, we know that with English language, it doesn't happen like that.
That's right.
So for them, for most of us, we process that quickly and we know that, oh no, you don't write it like that. If you're writing photograph, for instance, the the PH and the F, we've just instinctively we've learned to differentiate them. Not the learners with dyslexia. They just cannot. They learn one and they stick to it. So their writing is phonetic, whether they are in year 5 or in university. So that they need that support. Maths, with maths, oh, they can't tell you the place value of things. 100 tens units, they just confuse everything. It all looks the same to them. Plus and times. a big issue. So when you give them maths wax work to do, and it's a times table, for instance, five times 8, they probably would do 5 plus 8, because they look at that sign and in their head it's a plus. Okay, remembering things in sequence, days of the week. I would, for most children, by year 2, I can say what day comes after Tuesday. Don't try it with a dyslexia; they can't remember it. And I want to keep saying this: it is not a sign of laziness, and it's not a sign of forgetfulness. It's the fact that their brain has not processed it enough for them to remember it. Okay, so days of the week, the times tables, months of the year, all of the telling the time, big issue. So if you've been struggling to teach your child how to tell the time, are there any other issues going on? Poor timekeeping, poor personal organization. They might not remember their birthday. If something might happen a few minutes ago, they'll say it was yesterday, and all of that. So concepts like yesterday, today, tomorrow, they might not be able to make sense of it, and they will use them interchangeably. Okay, so of course we've talked about poor memory. So daily routines, what they do every day, they will forget, and they will forget their book on the table, even though you've told them to pick it up, unless there's structures in place to help them. They confuse left and right. Most primary schools in England will have, as a focal point, hands that show this is left and this is right. When we teach directions in maths, it's usually interesting to see that they just can't tell you which is left and which is right. Sometimes they have an indeterminate hand preference, so sometimes they use their left, sometimes they use their right, because the brain hasn't you know um, focused. And this one, classic, work avoidance tactics. They're the ones that run to the toilet when it's time to work, always and always. They're the ones that will be nice to you at home, especially when it's close to them doing their homework, so that they can wriggle out of it. They would delay tactics like, oh, I'm sharpening my pencil. I can't find the book. Give me an eraser. No, I don't want to use that pencil. Just avoiding, starting that work, because they're dreading the fact that it's going to be difficult. They seem dreamy, like they are just lost in the world of their own. They're always daydreaming. That's just, they're easily distracted. They might be disruptive in class. So if a child is being challenging or disrupted in school, what's going on with their learning? And also, they might just be the clown to take attention off them, so that you won't focus on their learning. They will make you laugh, they'll make the others laugh. Of course, like I said earlier, excessively tired a lot of the time. So a cluster a cluster of this is what we look at, and we call it a spiky profile in special needs. They're good in one place, they're very low in one place, they're good in another one, they're very low in another one. So that those are the signs in the primary years. I don't know if you want us to go on. We have the secondary years, and then we'll look at how to support them.
Wow. We haven't, even with the interruption, we've not completed an hour.
Okay,
Um, but if we can, I would like to ask some
yeah,
questions,
go
and I
ahead.
don't know
Yeah.
if any of the viewers right now that are watching have any questions that they would like to bring to you as well. So I think it's a good opportunity that we should not miss at all. So if you don't mind, please, my first question is there a spectrum?
It's a continuum. There's a wide spectrum. Yeah, like the autistic disorder spectrum. Yeah,
So which means we can have from minor, if I can use such
minor,
word, to
mild. Yes,
severity,
to very
very
severe.
extreme.
Yeah,
Okay. So again, it's through assessment again, you'll be able to
Mm,
know
mm,
exactly where your son or your daughter fall into.
yeah.
And then obviously from wherever they fall into, then we begin to know how we can assist that particular
Particular
child.
child.
Because for instance, one of those things I learned very early on with my children was what do you call this thing, eczema. I just thought eczema is eczema until we got to the dermatologist, and then he was telling us there are different kind of eczema, which is even a skin condition, to be honest
Mm,
with you.
mm, mm,
But he now start telling us this kind of eczema is this, is that, is that. So obviously then you know how you're treating this particular kind of eczema. So that's why I'm asking, so obviously in order to be able to help this child, we definitely do need to know where they are on the spectrum and the
yeah.
kind of assistant. So although we might, because some of the things that you said, like writing the letters backwards, like P
Mm,
backward facing the other way,
yeah.
F facing the other way, D
Mm.
facing, I feel that some children do that anyway in the early stages of learning.
Absolutely. It's
Okay, so it
yeah.
doesn't
But when it's
necessarily.
now persistent, that's not for the early years. It's now for like by the time they get to year one, end of year one, mostly year two. If end of year one, if the child is a late birthday, I probably would think, okay, maybe they're not mature. If they're like a June, July, August birthday, I think, okay, maybe they're not mature. But really and truly, by the time they get to year two and the reversal is persistent, we need to keep an eye on it and see what's going on there.
Okay. Then the so that's another question. Let me just see if anybody else do have question, and it's not just me that's bringing all the question to the table. Okay, I don't seem to see anything at the moment. So as I'm not trying to insult anybody, but that's how we say irresponsible adult.
Yeah.
So I you know, I don't. I'm really trying to be polite here. That's why I'm stuttering because I don't. People parents tend to accuse me of always accusing them. So I'm trying not to accuse anybody, but I'm kind of trying to find out that how vigilant, how much participation in the development of our children. I hope you're getting where I'm going with this. That
Mm.
do we need to be, or how actively involved do we have to be? How committed must we be in order for us to be able to pick up these early telltale signs? Are there early? And I believe there are, because that's part of what you're already telling us. Again, it's like that day you were telling us when in the early stages about, the even when the fetus is within us, things that we're doing, our emotion is affecting the child. Many of us didn't know that. Nobody ever said that to us. We got married, and the next thing is everybody's expecting you to pop a baby.
I
You too,
know.
you tried, wanted to pop a
You
baby,
got
and that
one.
was it.
Even me at that stage, it was.
Okay. So
No, I'm not talking from. No, yeah, even me at that stage, we learn as we. I think we learn and we grow. And the most important thing about parenting is not being static. It's being proactive and finding out, what's going on. What level should he be on now? What should he be able to do? You know, at this stage, we need to be involved. We need to be actively involved, and we need to engage the children. Like there's a lot of screen
time
time
today, too
today,
much.
which I think is not healthy for the children. The growing child, the
Just help
growing
me
child
repeat
should
it,
be
please.
out playing. They should be out, exploring. That's how they develop their language, They go outside, they say, you look at the leaves, you can talk about the colors, you can talk about, them, the leaves swaying in the wind, you can talk about, oh, the birds, they're chirping, and
Mm.
you're modeling the language. And you can talk about, oh, how many blue cars can you see? Those sort of things, the interaction that helps them develop their brain. Vital. And if you live in the developed nations, there's always, in your area, there'll be a play group for the children that haven't
Mm.
started school. Mother and child story time in the library or something. So there's always something that's happening, even if the child hasn't started school, where you can take the children and they can interact with others, they can play and explore. So we need to be involved. We need to be involved. And we need to pay attention to what's going on with the child.
It looks like I don't know whether is lazy parenting. Is that permissible for us to just, because I still had this conversation in the hospital today with one of the patients. How we just give them a device and then he allows us to get on with our business, doing whatever it
Mm,
is that we
mm,
want to do.
mm.
And like you said, I've said this before, I've brought report on to the stream before. And I, even to the point, I bought a book, I read the book. The people in Silicon Valleys do not give their children this device.
This devices,
The people
honestly.
that develop these things, they know, is some of the things I read in that book, you would run away from these things because we're basically like guinea pigs to them in a lab, and they're
Mm,
just using us and
collecting
controlling
data.
us.
Yeah.
And to now indoctrinate a child or put a child in there, and you think the child is being entertained or the child is, I don't know. But like you said, I mean, one of the things, and I've advocated this very early, and maybe this will help parents, library. Like I
Mm,
said, literally my children are popping out of the womb and I'm registering them in the library,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
In the library, like you said, there's all sorts of things going on in your local library. There's the knitting group in your local library. There's the listening group, the storytelling.
Oh
In fact,
yeah.
sometimes they come in their PJ, and they, come in your
Oh yeah,
PJ
they
sort
do.
of thing,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there's the in the early years, there's the soft toys. There's the
Oh
soft
yeah. Mm.
some,
Soft
for
play.
reading
Yeah.
and all, feeling and touching and all those, even painting. There's paint
Yeah.
like play groups. So again, things I feel parents could help parents to quickly identify if we are vigilant enough. What do you think?
It's yeah, absolutely. We just need to be more. We need to be present. Like make the children our priority. Don't wait for them to go to school before they learn that reading is important. Read to them. Read with them. You know, bedtime stories. Let them choose their stories. Telling stories and retelling them, you're training the brain. You're
Mm,
training the brain to be creative. You're training the brain to remember. You're reading a book and you're pointing at the words. And the young child, you would start training them to read the simple ones. Like, you're reading a story about a cat. When you get to the word cat, just point at it and wait for them. They'll
mm,
remember
mm,
it because
mm.
how do we know this? Before they're 3, they can tell you that's McDonald's.
Yes.
That means they can tell you, oh, KFC, you can't drive past it. They will point at
Mm,
it. That
mm,
means the brain is learning to associate those symbols with, some things they enjoy. So they can actually learn some of the words you're reading to them and reading with them and
mm,
have books around the house. I was telling my colleague today that, the concepts that we now teach. We were talking about growing up and learning to read. I mean, we didn't do phonics. I said to her, I said, my mother just basically bought, the Ladybird books,
mm.
Janet and
Yes.
John. and
Jane,
we had the whole
Janet.
we had the whole, and I was telling my colleague that I had a book of concepts. I didn't know it was concepts then. I still remember them today. It was pictures. It was push, pull, open, close, up, down, in, out, empty,
Yes.
full. And I
Yes.
learned to read it, and I understood the concept. It was from a book that was in the house. So we need to invest in, really good books that, the children can at leisure and make it. And if we don't read, we shouldn't expect the children to read.
Of course. Standard procedure.
Uh, but then how many of us have time to read? We
I
just
will.
we basically need to slow down
We
and
need
be there, because I always say to people, 18 years, it flies like that.
very
Before you
quickly.
know it, they're gone.
Very quickly. Very quickly. Come on us. We that we've got the
We empty nesters.
so exactly. So yeah. Well, we are definitely over the hour now. I
Yeah.
think. What do you suggest? We pick it up where we left it the next time. I know we've
Yeah.
got something already planned, but
Hmm.
adjustment can take place.
Yeah. Okay. Let's finish this off next time.
Okay.
I did try to compress it, but yeah,
Internet wasn't helping either. So,
yeah,
but we did our best.
yeah.
Yes.
I know.
So, in closing, Sister Folakemi, as we
Yeah.
go, one last word that you would say, if there was a summary or one word to parents on dyslexia, what would you say that would be?
If a child is struggling, don't assume it's laziness. Find out what's going on. If
Excellent.
a child that's avoiding the schoolwork at all costs, find out what's going on. And okay, maybe when we talk about supporting the children,
Mm,
we must
mm.
make sure that their eyes are checked and their ears are checked.
Thank
Every time we
you.
have an issue with in SCN, the first thing we will say is, when was the last hearing check? When was the last sight check? With those ones are standard. Like, we just got to be sure that's fine.
That's standard for you in the profession, but many parents, you'll be surprised. Um, Sister Falekem, I'm so glad that you're here to help us, because when I'm saying it always looks like my own is OTT and as you do all these kind of thing. I actually do. I don't come. I remember talking to my brother-in-law, one of my brother-in-law yesterday, and I was telling him certain things. He said, yeah, and Tifunka, if you're saying it, it must be true because you don't lie. So, so if I don't do something, I tell you I don't do it, but definitely hearing test, dentistry, eye
Oh yeah,
test,
oh
all
yeah.
those kind of things. They
Mm,
they just normal. It
they're
will.
just standard. I mean, I've been chasing my 22-year-old. Like, you won't phone your dentist. I mean, he's
Mhm.
supposed to be an adult, but I'm like, phone your dentist. Ah, please.
Well, thank you so much. Again, so much information, so much resources you brought to the table. Just one last thing, if anybody is in the United Kingdom and they're thinking maybe some of these things that you've pointed out, where can they go? Where can you signpost them? Where's the
Oh
first
yeah,
place?
oh yeah. British Dyslexia Association, and if you're in the United Kingdom, your first port of call is talking to your child's
GP.
school.
Oh,
You don't do GP is not necessarily. I mean,
okay.
your child's
Okay.
school, the
Your
parent,
child's
the
school.
teacher,
Okay.
and then maybe the Senko. Usually, actually, if it gets to that level where there's a huge gap, the school will be telling you. But if you do notice things, that's why they are teachers. Approach them and say, look, I noticed this. I noticed his squints. I noticed his misread words. What can I do?
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so, so much. I'm going to have to let you go. Hopefully, you
No
will have
worries.
that smile when you go to bed, like
Yeah.
I promise you.
I always leave smiling.
That's good. I
This
always
is
like to see
awesome.
you leave smiling and everybody else. So you and I will catch up and I'll try
Yes.
and make those
Yeah.
arrangements. So
No worries.
thank you.
Thank you,
Have a restful
everyone.
night, and
Thank you.
we'll see you very soon by
Yeah,
God's
by
grace.
God's grace.
Enjoy the rest of your evening,
You
sis.
too.
Take care.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Everybody, that is Sister Folakemi again. So much information. Like I always say, let's get involved, because sometimes when we're quiet like this, it sounds like we already know it, and we don't need anybody to come and tell us what we already know. But I'm sure many of us, just like myself, you're learning some of these things, you're hearing them for the very first time. And it might not necessarily be for you, but it might be for some people as well. You'll be surprised. Some of this information that I gather is not necessary for myself or necessarily for my children. But obviously, I have niece, I have nephew, I have friends, I have families, I have other children that, I get involved in their life one way or the other. You never know how useful that information might be. So I want to apologize for the interruption, everybody. Internet, there was nothing we could have done. Hopefully, I don't know, it will be resolved by the time you and I meet tomorrow by the grace of God. So everybody, as always, I want to leave you in the most capable hands of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you for being here. And so enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care, everybody. See you soon, and God bless.